This will be a short interlude, in case the family decides that there's more to say. And I'd like to think that what I have to say is family appropriate. Thank you to Bob and to Joel and to the whole McLuhan Legacy Network for allowing me to speak this evening. Is this microphone working okay? Yeah. Well, for the past decade, I've been a broadcast professional, although I prefer to consider myself a radio amateur, because I think that somehow it would be better to be an amateur, as Marshall McLuhan once mentioned. My current gig at the CBC is director and writer at a show called Q with Jian Himeshi, which is ostensibly a radio show, and it's a great, fun radio show to work on. But it's very quickly becoming a rather popular multi-platform concern. And though I love radio, there are millions of people who've enjoyed our show without any way of receiving our FM signal, which was unheard of when I got my first job only 10 years ago. I became a member of the McLuhan Legacy Network completely by chance when I returned a voicemail message from someone on the committee who was searching for archival material. I think it was of John Lennon and Yoko Ono visiting the Coach House. And it was the first I had heard of the Centenary, and on that phone call, my brain and my tongue simultaneously said, I'd like to help with that. And with that tiny explosion, I reestablished a connection with one of the most important, most inspiring voices that I personally had ever heard. Since then, I've worked to encourage the CBC, my employer, to ensure that Marshall McLuhan would have a presence on our airwaves and in our building this summer. And I think I did okay. I must say the folks from Nora Young's program, Spark, did amazing work, all on their own, way ahead of time, and I just think that's fantastic as well. As a stay-at-home father of 3 for the past few months, I was on leave from the CBC. I lived the dream of working remotely on this project, just the way Marshall McLuhan said I would, using this machine. And it's actually thrilling to be re-embodied here. With everyone at the events this week and in this room tonight. I mention this all happening by chance to me because my introduction to Marshall McLuhan can also be attributed to chance, that flinty yet elusive character. It was December 1996. I was in Kingston, Ontario, wrapping up a Bachelor of Arts at Queen's University, and I was trapped in an academic vortex. I was supposed to have found myself by now, but I had no idea where I was. I worked at the campus radio station. I was quite good at creative writing, but you couldn't major in either of those at Queen's. And I realize now that 15 years ago, the people who were really in the know were into computers. My own personal device was a restored 1940s Remington portable typewriter that I still have because I love its infinite battery life and its built-in printer. And I think it may come in handy someday, I don't know. My favorite haunts were record shops and bookstores, 2 elements of our society that I, in my mid-30s, am watching sort of float away, disappear. I have to wait for weeks to actually be able to be in a neighborhood that contains a record store so that I can look for actual records. But that's also because I live in the suburbs. And that's another story. But it was in one of these haunts of mine that I found a book like no other. The medium is the massage. It was my way in. I think it cost me $3. And it was a tantalizing beginning. Pow, here's why you love radio. Pow, here's why you love books. Feeling a little out of sorts? Could be that all at onceness. Here's why you might occasionally get the distinct impression that we're all going to hell in a handbasket, except we're not really. Or not right away, anyway. I'm paraphrasing. And as long as you're working to achieve some level of understanding, nothing is inevitable. Those things you don't dig, don't poo-poo them, don't ignore them, don't deride them, get inside them. Look for the buttons. The buttons. And with that encounter, with that text, and a couple others right after, it was the first time that I could see the water I was swimming in. And once you see it, you don't unsee it. Although you do forget from time to time, but that's allowed. Marshall McLuhan's wisdom was portable, accessible, and it, for me, at that time in my life, in my 20s, it lacked the academic strictures under which I had labored, occasionally labored, over the previous 4 years. And though I eventually joined the CBC, I could just as easily have become a teacher. McLuhan's work didn't necessarily drive me into the media business, it did much more. It woke me up to what was really happening and helped me understand why it made me feel inside the way it did. And from then on, I could occasionally glance away from the rearview mirror at the road ahead. And I'm now a father of 3 children under the age of 8. Just a guy who takes the train to work and back home again. And my relationship to Marshall McLuhan's work is only deepening as I realize I have no idea how immersive Hannah, Renee, and Declan Foley's worlds will be as they grow up. But I know I'll do all I can to make sure they can see the water they're swimming in. I'm confident because, you see, I've packed up some probes in my old kit bag. And I'm grateful for the life of Marshall McLuhan. So thank you very much.